Okay, that was After the Fire with Der Commissar. Did I pronounce that right? Little too on the nose today, right? Authorities already on the scene, and the rest of us are waiting for the truth to catch up.
This morning, a person reportedly shot and killed during an incident involving an ice.
Now, before we get to that, I want to show you this, right? It's only a little clip right there. We're going to see the rest later. But go ahead and play it again. You're looking at a shot taken from a passerby. And I want you to keep your eyes on that white car right there. I believe this is just a 10-second gap here. Four 45. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, listen. What you just saw is a fragment of a fatal encounter involving ice agents in Biddeford, Maine. Don't worry, we're going to go back and go frame by frame on a the whole video. Okay, that's just a fraction right there. And let's not forget that a man is dead. Okay, the FBI is leading the investigation. According to Senator Angus King, the agents involved were not wearing um, body cameras. A, a federal um, phrase is already beginning to shape this whole story. Weaponized his vehicle. Now, that phrase carries enormous weight. It can make deadly force sound settled before the public has seen the evidence that would settle it. Today, we're going to, slow this down. I'm a retired police officer. I spent 20 years as a county patrol officer. I have made vehicle stops. I have watched drivers panic. I have seen cars become dangerous. I've had uh, drivers drive away from me. Bad drivers refuse to open the door. I've watched drivers panic. I've seen cars become dangerous. I also know that a moving vehicle doesn't erase the rules governing deadly force. The trigger decision rises or falls on the threat at the moment the shots were fired. Okay? These are questions. Where was the agent? Where was the car? How fast was it moving? Which direction were the wheels turned? Was the agent trapped in the vehicle's path? Um, was moving out of that path objectively reasonable? These questions matter because DHS policy limits firing at a moving vehicle to circumstances in which deadly force is authorized. All right. The policy specifically requires scrutiny of whether another objectively reasonable means of defense existed, including moving out of the vehicle's path. Okay. We don't have the trigger moment on camera tonight on this video. So we have four pieces of the public record. We've got the early NBC report, the Press Herald cell phone video, aftermath footage, and a Maine Wire field report. Together, they show the sequence. They also expose the evidence still missing. Okay, so I'm just going to warn you up front here. This does concern, this footage is of a fatal shooting and includes disturbing aftermath footage. So let's establish the public baseline first. Okay.
This morning, a person reportedly shot and killed during an incident involving an ICE officer in Biddeford. That's about 25 minutes outside of Portland, Maine.
The state's House Speaker writing in a social media post that state officials are on the ground investigating the shooting. This would mark the second fatal ICE-involved confrontation in less than a week. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia. In less than a week. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley following this one for us. And Julia, details seem to be just coming to light right now. What more do we know about the shooting and specifically investigating it?
Well, there's still so much we don't know, Sam, but I'll tell you what we know at this hour. We know that local police will not be involved in investigating this shooting. They put out a statement just within the last hour saying that there was an ICE-involved shooting here in Biddeford.
Okay, let me just catch you up on what she said there. Okay. There was a man heard saying, I tried to stop. Okay. That sentence there may become one of the emotional centers in this case. Um, you know, and keep its evidentiary status clear. What NBC is trying to do there, and what I was trying to play there, and I'm not getting too much cooperation today from my equipment, but they're playing a witness account gathered by one of its interns. The witness says a larger vehicle rammed a smaller vehicle, and the vehicles came down the hill. Another impact occurred, gunshots followed, and the wounded man said, I tried to stop. You know, that is important witness reporting right there. It's also one person's view of a fast, chaotic event. Now, the first missing piece is the sequence before the gunfire. Okay. Which vehicle initiated contact? How many collisions occurred? Were federal vehicles marked? When did the agents identify themselves? And what commands were given? Where did each agent stand when the car moved? Now, that phrase I said earlier, weaponized his vehicle, cannot answer those questions. Okay. The physical evidence alone must answer them.
Janet Mills saying, I've been briefed on the fatal shooting in Biddeford this morning involving federal law enforcement. She goes on basically just to say that all of these law enforcement agencies are going to be working together, including the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, to determine the facts of what occurred larger vehicle. They came down the hill, rammed again. He heard gunshots around 7:30 a.m. this morning, sounded like firecrackers. Then he saw someone being pulled out of a car, presumably law enforcement pulling the victim out of the car, because he said he saw a lot of blood on this man, and that he heard the man, after he had been shot, saying, "I tried."
Okay, that's the part right there where he said,
Man, and that he heard the man, after he had been shot, saying, "I tried to stop." Then he said he saw what looked like an attempt to save this man's life that was not successful.
Julia, have we heard from DHS? This is the second alleged ICE-involved shooting in less than a week, the other one being
okay, listen, that report right there, what little bit of it we were able to hear of it. Listen, the facts are still coming together. Okay, this is an ongoing incident, and here's what emerged afterward. Immigrant advocates described the man as a 26-year-old from Colombia who was authorized to work in the United States and had a social security number. Senator Angus King says Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen told him the man was the target of the ICE operation and had been ordered to leave the country and had a warrant for his arrest. Now, both descriptions can exist in the same case. Okay, you got work authorizations on one hand, immigration status, and a removal order. They all involve different legal questions. None of those labels decides whether deadly force was justified. The decision to fire turns on imminent danger at the trigger moment. Senator King also says the secretary told him the agents had no body cameras because cameras had not yet reached them. So that leaves investigators dependent on surveillance video, civilian recordings, radio traffic, physical evidence, vehicle damage, shell casings, bullet trajectories, medical evidence, and the statements of the agents and witnesses. Now, let's look at the video that made this live stream necessary. Okay, this is what the cell phone video from the witness actually shows here.
On the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Okay, there's the white vehicle. I want you to look at it, that video, that white vehicle. What this clip contains, it contains the same action twice, right? First, we're seeing it at the wider view, then as an enlarged replay. We aren't watching two separate movements of the car. Here's what the camera gives us. The white sedan is moving across the intersection under a green traffic signal. Multiple agents appear in close proximity to the car as it rolls. So, and there is at least one is moving beside or just behind the passenger side area. Now, the distance and resolution make precise body positions difficult to establish here. The car doesn't appear to be moving at highway speed, okay? The camera angle prevents a reliable speed estimate, and the clip doesn't show the beginning of the stop. All right. So the reported collisions, the commands, the gunfire, or the precise position of the shooter when the trigger was pulled, we're not seeing that. That limit is crucial here. Okay. This footage cannot prove that the vehicle posed no earlier threat. It also cannot prove the federal claim that deadly force was necessary. So, but what it can do is help reconstruct the immediate movement around the car. What I want investigators to identify every person visible here, map each person's map, synchronize this clip with 911 calls and radio traffic, and locate every surveillance camera facing Hill and Pool Streets. Okay. The decisive frame exists before this clip begins. That is the frame showing whether an agent faced an imminent danger and whether a reasonable escape path existed. Let's try and look at some more of this video here. Again, this is slow motion. So the first thought that occurred to me, right, because we don't hear the gunshots occurred earlier, was that you've got a car meandering as if the driver is no longer in control. Okay, this is what happens when a driver loses consciousness, right? No braking whatsoever. The officer is oblivious to the fact that his bullets have actually killed that man, even even though he or his partner were the ones who pulled the trigger. And this my patrol experience keeps pulling me back to positioning. Okay, a vehicle can kill an officer. Okay, let's not minimize that. Every cop understands that. Training also teaches officers to avoid getting trapped in front of a moving vehicle whenever circumstances allow it. Okay. Bullets do not reliably stop a car. A wounded or dead driver can leave an uncontrolled vehicle moving through a public street. And I think, based on my experience, that is what you're seeing right there. So the key question is bigger than did the car move? The question is whether the car created an imminent threat of death or serious injury at the instant the agent fired, and whether another objectively reasonable defense existed. That's what the FBI must reconstruct here. So now what we're looking at, that is the aftermath. Okay. This is the medical response phase right here. We can see multiple personnel around the person on the pavement, right? We can see equipment on the ground right here. Um, we can see the white sedan stopped right near. You see that? Stopped right near the crosswalk, and federal vehicles controlling the surrounding space. This footage, it's showing an effort to render aid. Now, it doesn't give us the medical timeline. Investigators, still need the exact time of the gunshots, the first request for EMS, and the first hands-on treatment, the ambulance arrival, and every treatment performed before the man was pronounced dead. Okay, those timestamps belong in the public record. This man's final moments should remain evidence and not spectacle. So let's see what else we can see in this video here. Okay, so these type of aftermath videos can show care. They can show urgency, confusion, scene control. It can't travel backward and justify the shooting. All right. So let me ask you to, hey, take 10 seconds, hit that like button. All right. I need you to subscribe to the YouTube channel and share this with one person who wants evidence instead of slogans. And, for my peeps watching me on Substack, restack this broadcast as soon as you can. Okay. Paid subscriptions on Substack keep XVOA independent, and the buy me a coffee links help cover the daily production floor when a subscription is not possible. Now let's go to the field report. We're going to be looking at John Featherston from the Maine Wire here. Okay, go ahead, play the video.
All right, John with the Maine Wire, Monday morning, just a little after 11 o'clock. Real no update. Now we've got helicopters. Happens, we'll be covering it to you with the Maine Wire, but just to update you if you haven't seen already, we have confirmed reports from multiple sources that 4 gunshots were heard being fired. There is
Okay, so I'm going to pause right there. 4 reported shots from multiple sources gives investigators a working witness count. Okay, the ballistic count comes from shell casings. Okay, recovered projectiles, defects in the vehicle, nearby structures, and any available audio recording. Now, the other part of this report is jurisdiction. Okay, Biddeford and Saco police are handling traffic control and scene preservation. The FBI is there on the scene working the case. Federal agents are moving through the local police station. That means the local departments visible in the aftermath footage aren't necessarily the agencies making the force decisions or controlling the investigation. I want to make sure we keep that distinction clear when we evaluate, uniforms, vehicles, commands, and responsibility. So, taking it back to the Maine Wire field report here.
There isn't a whole lot more information other than that. Saco and Biddeford police are on hand, but that it's more for traffic control and crime scene preservation. The FBI is working in the red tent that you can see right over here. We've been seeing.
Okay, basically, John Featherston's report right there establishes the scene as it existed around 11 o'clock this morning. Okay, we've got a forensic tent, we've got FBI activity, local police They're mostly preserving the perimeter. Okay. Federal personnel arriving. Okay. A press conference. Did we ever have one? We were supposed to have one. They canceled it. So I guess it's still pending. It doesn't establish what happened at the trigger moment here. So, my read of this situation, uh, when I review an officer involved shooting, I build the timeline backward from the gunfire. Okay. First, okay, we got the trigger moment. Where was the shooter standing? Where was the muzzle? Where was the front bumper? What was the distance between the agent and the vehicle? Which way were the wheels pointed? Did the agent fire from the front, the side, or behind the car as it passed? Um, Second, there's the approach, right? How did the agents attempt to stop? How many federal vehicles were involved? Were they marked or unmarked? Y'all know from previous past cases and how they roll, they were more than likely unmarked vehicles. Did they box the sedan in? Did a larger federal vehicle ram the smaller car, as the NBC witness account we played earlier suggests? Okay. Did the agents create crossfire positions around the vehicle? And third, identification and commands. What did the agents wear? What did they shout? Could the driver recognize them as law enforcement? How much time passed between identification, commands, vehicle movement, and gunfire? And fourth, we've got the exit routes. Could the agent move? Could the driver move? Were civilians standing in the projected path of the car? Did another vehicle or fixed object trap either person? Fifth, we got to consider the rounds. How many shots were fired? From how many weapons? At what angles? Where did the rounds enter? Which round caused that fatal injury? Where did every missed round travel? Six, there's the response. How quickly did agents secure the car, remove the driver, request medical assistance, and begin treatment? Those are answerable questions. The FBI has access to the agents, weapons, casings, radio traffic, federal vehicles, vehicle damage records, and forensic scene. The public has a distant cell phone clip in 24 seconds of the aftermath. That imbalance creates a duty of transparency. And listen, I digress here for 1 second. I don't want to get too off topic. I spent 2 decades in patrol, and I know I am far from the only retired cop who can see the tactical questions sitting inside this footage. So where are the others, right? Did retirement didn't erase our training or our responsibility to tell the public when a use of force account demands scrutiny. Yeah, I'm baffled. More retired officers should be willing to say, slow it down, preserve the evidence, um, test the official language, and follow the facts wherever they lead. And the silence is becoming its own statement. So this is where explicit voice of America reads. I call it reading the machinery. Right? You're talking about the institutions, um, the federal government. Excuse me, I feel like I got something in my eye here. God, maybe it's these bright lights. So the federal government enters this case with agents, lawyers, forensic access, internal reports, public affairs professionals, and the power to decide what information moves first. Okay, and unfortunately, we got a dead man who enters the public record through somebody else's verbs, targeted, ordered, removed, weaponized. Those events may eventually be supported by evidence. Um, this afternoon, they remain claims requiring verification. His immigration status can explain the enforcement operation. It can't replace the deadly force analysis. Okay. His work authorization can describe part of his life in America. It cannot, I repeat, it cannot settle the deadly force analysis. The standard belongs to the moment force was used. That is why the absence of body cameras, it makes so much of it matters so much. Federal agents were conducting a planned operation in a residential city. They had time to identify a target, travel to the location, deploy personnel, and stage vehicles. And according to Senator King, the cameras hadn't reached them. Sounds like a logistics supply issue. Uh, the public right now is being asked to evaluate a fatal shooting through fragments captured by civilians. Listen, this right here is an accountability failure even before the investigation begins. And here is the verdict this afternoon. The available video doesn't prove the federal account. The available video doesn't disprove every possibility that the car posed a deadly threat before the camera captured it. It proves that the public record is incomplete. It proves that the agents moved alongside the car after the gunfire sequence described by the witnesses. It proves that the aftermath unfolded in public view. It proves that no agent body camera footage will supply the missing angle. According to Senator Angus King, so, it didn't reach him yet. I guess they got misdelivered, dropped on the wrong doorstep. Okay. We need to get those cameras. And all of this proves that the phrase weaponized his vehicle arrived before the evidence supporting that phrase reached the public. All right. The FBI should um, release a synchronized timeline. You'll probably hear this in a press conference. Okay. Um, Release whatever available surveillance video was in the area at the time. Release the 911 and radio traffic. Release the number of shots and the number of shooters. Release the vehicle damage analysis. Release the agent positions and trajectory findings. Explain to the public when the agents identified themselves. Explain to the public why body cameras were absent from a planned federal operation. A transparent investigation is an obligation owed to this deceased man. This was somebody's son. Well, we don't know if they were male or female, but this was somebody's son or daughter, possibly somebody's husband, maybe somebody's father. His family, the agents in the city of Biddeford, uh, in and the public, we are owed an obligation. Now, until that evidence arrives, discipline matters. Slow the footage down. Separate observation from inference. Okay. Separate witness accounts from forensic findings. Separate these immigration labels from the constitutional standard governing deadly force. And listen, never allow the government's first sentence to become the final verdict simply because the person who could challenge it is dead. Now, this analysis gave you a clearer map, like this live stream. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to to this YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Hey, on Substack, all my Substack peeps out there, Restack this broadcast later. You can't do it right now. You can't do right stacks through my life, but you know what I mean. Um, do what you can so that it reaches people outside the usual algorithmic lanes. And paid subscriptions. I want to thank my paid subscribers, my paying subscribers, because you're keeping this desk independent. And my buy me a coffee links, they remain the backstop that helps, you know, cover daily production expenses. Hey, I'm explicit. This is explicit Voice of America, over and out. I will see you next time.